Hello, and welcome to Holistic Emails, Email and More, a Q&A with. I'm your host, Skip Federa, and on today's episode, we will be diving into everybody's favorite topic, email marketing technology. Oh, and how to build out your email marketing tech stack. Sorry, can't even read my own script. As you know, this is your show, right? So we bring the experts, but it's up to you to bring the questions and drive the conversation forward. It's unscripted, clearly unrehearsed, and it is always a whole lot of fun. Oh, what I really wish is that there we go. The AirMeet people made it just a little bit quicker to share slides. That'd be so much nicer. Anyway, so we've got a brilliant show lined up for you today. We're going to explore why strategy and goals must be a part of every tech discussion. Best of breed versus all-in-one solutions. The technologies our panelists use every day, how AI might reshape the tech stack question and equation, and technology in the age of data privacy. Before we go any further, we should take a moment to thank our brilliant sponsors. So this series is brought to you by our platinum sponsor, RPE Origin. Thanks, Ryan. And our silver sponsor, Bloomreach. Now, after we're done today, check out the website to catch up on every episode from seasons 1 to 3 and the 4 episodes we've done already this year. Some brilliant content is in there. It's a great way to catch up on things, to catch up on what we've been talking about, but also to keep yourself current, keep yourself fresh, keep your skills up to date. Now, as I said, we've put together a brilliant panel for you today. With us is Faithful Adia, marketing automation lead at HelloFresh. We've got Keisha Anderson, founder at emailartisan.io. We've got Lindsay Howe, who's head of marketing automation at UniQuest. Ryan Phelan, sponsor and managing partner of RPE Origin, and one of our award-winning panelists, our second award-winning panelist, and with me as always is best-selling author and thought leader Kath Pei from Holistic Email Marketing. So our time always passes way too quickly. So folks, get your questions into the Q&A tab. And like I said, your questions drive the conversation forward. Now, we've all been there, right? The boss or someone senior in your organization comes by your desk or bumps into you in the hallway or maybe the coffee machine. And they're like, what are we doing about, or we need to adopt, and the end of those two sentences is whatever the latest new tech is. They've been to a conference, they've heard about it, they've listened to a podcast, they've read a blog, they don't know much about it, but we have to have it. We have to adopt it. I like to call these people magpie marketers because just like the thieving bird, they're attracted to anything shiny. We got to have the latest thing. We got to have the newest tech. Now, I don't think this challenge is unique to email marketers particularly, but I do think that we may be a little bit more susceptible to being distracted by the shiny. The core technology that drives email marketing is almost as old as I am, and we're not going to talk about how old that is. It's actually a little bit younger than I am, which is a little upsetting. But it's been around since the early 70s, and sometimes I think it feels a little bit old-fashioned. Of course, one of the benefits of building out tech and adopting new tech on email is that because email as a technology is so tried and tested, so stable, so reliable, it's actually quite easy to implement some new tech on top of that. So it might be easier, but that does not eliminate the risk. They say that you should never bet more than you can afford to lose. And email is still the preeminent marketing channel with returns of between 30 and 40 to 1. So for most brands, the returns on their email marketing are more than they can afford to risk. So the question becomes, do you become an early adopter and go all in straight away? Or do you wait until the new technology is a bit more established? You've seen some case studies on it. You may be seeing it presented, use cases presented at a conference. Which way do you fall? So with that, I want to turn it over to our panel, and I want to start with something fun. What is your favorite tech that you use daily? It doesn't have to be email. What's your favorite techie, gadgety thing?
I use Evernote.
Brian, why don't you start?
A techie, gadgety thing. Twitter. TweetDeck, and they're stealing it from me. But TweetDeck would probably be the techie thing I use every day without fail.
Okay.
You don't seem happy with that answer. You seem disappointed with that answer.
No, that's fine. I mean, no, that's cool. That's fine.
Were you looking for something else? Because I have so much tech here. I can.
No, it's fine. Keisha, what about you?
I'd say my phone, just because it connects me to almost all the tech that that is out there. It's web based and all that. So ever since smartphones were a thing, it's probably like most people who have them, it's been on my hip, and especially like that I can Google search or chat GPT something very quickly with my phone when I need to know some detail that's probably irrelevant to everyday life.
To life. Yeah, I like that though. The days of the argument, the stupid argument in the bar is over, because it's just like, I'm just going to look it up. Also, I don't know if
I was never into that. So.
I don't know if everybody noticed this, and I don't know if this commercial is dropped in the US yet, but according to the Samsung commercial, we are now all going to run out and buy that phone that Keisha just showed us, because that's their commercial. As soon as you see it, you got to have it. So, Keisha, thanks for that. Kath, tech you use every day?
Just Evernote. Evernote, I'm lost without it.
Oh, that's yeah, really so am I. I'm at an age where I need to write everything down.
Yeah.
Faithful, how about you, mate?
Yeah, similar to Kath, Notion is my note-taking tool, and I use it for almost everything. Yeah.
I think there's a generational thing there. Like, a lot of the people on my team use Notion as well. And they're like, Evernote is so boring. Lindsay, how about you?
I use something called dlim.co. I don't know if anyone uses it, but it essentially takes a column of data. You just dump it into the website, and it exchanges it for comma-separated string of data, which is really useful. I literally use this at least once a day to help me add data for segmentation or build lists. So definitely a good one to have in your bookmarks.
Okay, Lindsay, so you need to drop that link into the chat, because I think everybody is now sitting there going, what'd she say? What'd she say? All right. So mine is this app called What 3 Words, which is quite big here. It's kind of getting bigger in America. And basically what they did was, because something like 95% of the world is unaddressed and unaddressable, they've mapped out the world and given each square meter or yard, depending on which way you think about it, a unique 3-word designator. And the reason I use it is not because I get lost, although it is great for that. If you have to meet somebody at a festival, it's awesome for that. I use it because I'll go to a place that means something to me, grab the 3 words, and it's a pretty unbreakable password, because there are 3 non-associated random words. So that's mine. So if you're looking for a way to come up with new passwords, find a place that means something, a place where you got your first kiss or whatever, and plug it in. Right. Okay. So let's move this on. Let's talk about specifically email marketing technology. And also, give me a flavor of how many of you, show of hands on the panel, early adopters? 2, 3. I'm kind of an early adopter. And now, are you an early adopter in everything, or marketing tech, or what? Both? Either? Lindsay, how about you?
Sometimes a bit of both. Yeah, definitely with marketing tech, I think. I try to be.
Okay. Mine's personal electronics. I'll be a early adopter on personal electronics, but marketing wise, I'm hesitant to keep hopping around to the next shiny thing. So I kind of wait until somebody can prove to me that it's better than what I'm using.
And we'll get into this later. One of the things that Ryan, that question makes me think of is because you're in that unique position running RP Origin, you probably get clients calling you all the time saying, we want to do this. And so it'd be interesting to hear how you push back on that. Keisha, what about you? Early adopter?
No, I'm an early trier. I want to experiment with the new things, but I won't necessarily adopt them right away. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like with ChatGPT, for instance, I jumped on it and I tried it, but I want to see how it actually works before like actually putting it into any workflows, personal electronics. I wanted this phone. The Samsung commercial was me when I first saw it, but I didn't get it. This is the 4th generation. I didn't get it until they worked the kinks out. I didn't want to buy it and it snapped in half or whatever the case is. I mean, like all the way to the vaccine. I want to see what happens to everybody else before I jump on something and adopt it and see how it works and wait till they get the kinks out. Because when something's new, it's normally, you're moving fast and you want to go ahead and ship your new product or service or whatever it is. So I prefer to let the kinks get worked out before I actually adopt something. But I'll experiment with it depending, with something that I can access without making a commitment.
I like that, early experimenter. Faithful, how about you?
Yeah, I'm also similar to Keisha. I would wait till kind of everything's been figured out a bit. So I mean, not till the tail end, but I would not classify myself as an early adopter. I'll be like, okay, maybe after I get a bit of feedback on how it's going, and to be able to connect if it's actually going to be valuable for me before I start. Yeah.
Okay. And Kath, I think I know your answer, but since I haven't asked you.
Well, no, I'm pretty much the same. I put up my hand for early adopter because I look at that as you're adopting it to work out if it's going to be good for you, right? I don't adopt things just because of trends. I'm not a very good person to be following trends. I don't follow trends for clothing. I don't follow trends for most things. But if something new comes out, I definitely want to know about it, particularly when it relates to my business and to marketing and everything. Being where I am in the industry, I have to have a good knowledge of these things. But I will always wait till I actually have a specific use case that I need for it. So I'm not going to go and make up a use case. I'm not going to, I'm very much a believer, say for ChatGPT, right? I've gone in, I'm still studying and I'm still learning, I'm still experimenting, I'm still playing. We do use it internally for a few basic things. There's a lot more out there that I can be using it for, but I'm waiting for the right time for it to be able to help me to resolve a challenge, right? Or a problem or something like that, as opposed to me going and trying to sort of, what's that phrase? When you've got a hammer, everything you see is a nail type thing. I don't want to apply it to everything. I need to find out what and is that going to be the best one, or are there other competitors out there that would actually give me a better result? So but the awareness is very key. I have to be aware of what's out there.
How do you all keep up with new tech? Where do you hear about new tech?
For me, everywhere. I get a couple of newsletters that have to do with new tech, and then also new marketing tech and new marketing trends and that. So that'll probably be the first place that I hear about things via newsletters. But other than that, it might be social media. It might be, if it's a tool that I already use that has a new feature, it might be just, customer, I guess like push notifications, web notifications, things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sometimes as well, when there's a need for something, I'd go out and proactively look for what's out there that can answer our questions. And I think probably similar to Ryan, when you're dealing with clients, they sometimes come to you and say, we want to do this, they are doing that, we want to do it. Or, they've done something in the past that they want us to adopt. So some of it's proactive and some of it is kind of being reactive to people seeing that shiny magpieing and wanting a piece of it as well.
So that's a great segue, Lindsay. Thanks. How do you all keep, how do you strike the balance between a client who wants to try something, maybe wants to be an early adopter, maybe is less risk averse than you are, or you want them to be? How do you push back on that?
I would start off and ask them why. What does it gain you? I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about the product per se. I want to look at what is their current pain point, what does their current stack look like, and what do they think the other side will look like, right? And then draw them back into, okay, are you ready for the pain that you're going to have to get through to get there? Are you prepared for the staffing you're going to have? Are you actually realistic in the use of that product? And we kind of just dive into the why a little bit more to give him or her a little bit more discussion on the business case instead of everybody's got a CDP, I need one.
Yeah.
Well, why? What's that going to get you over what you have today? And then take him through that due diligence. And if we come to the end of it and he or she has a very good defense, very good rationale, and has thought this through, then great. Let's do an RFP. Let's think through it. But I tend to probe a little bit deeper when I start off than anything.
Okay. So it's all about, let's not focus on the tech. Let's focus on what will it give you?
Yeah.
And do you actually need that?
What's the outcome? Yeah.
It's sort of like,
Yeah.
I really want a Ferrari. What for? To go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
What? You can buy one thing at a time.
How about get a red golf cart? Yeah. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I can see you in a red golf cart.
Yeah.
Any other approaches? I mean, Faithful, you're on the brand side. What do you do when the boss comes by and says, "Hey, let's do this"?
For me, it's also to quantify the value, right? So what is the value of actually not just the tool, right? So you're thinking about the tool would potentially solve a problem, right? And what's the value that this problem would bring? What is the impact here, right? And I think it's similar to what Ryan said, which is focusing on the why, right? Why do we want to use this? What impact do we think this would bring? And for me, I always like to kind of focus on, would I say the goal, the objective, or if it's a problem, if it's an opportunity, let's focus on that. And then we look at the tool or the solution as multiple options, right? There's not only one single one. There are different approaches or different solutions that you can take. And we figure out if we need a new one or if we can actually retrofit one of the solutions that we have to solve this use case. So that's generally my approach. And it's also, if it's not existing in the current, let's say, tool stack or whatever we have available, if we can try and build a case for it to see, okay, is based on maybe we hack together some things. If we're already seeing value, then maybe it's worth investing in, right? So that's always how I try to flip the conversation.
Faithful, you've got a harder component of that being on the client side, is that along with all of that, you've got to think about the political implications of, is this a pet project, and am I better to support it than to fight it or to ask the why question, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's important that you actually highlight, because some things, right? I mean, it's not everything that we do or that I would do that is essentially what I would want to do, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you kind of have to, would I say, play the more strategic role, which is, okay, maybe if we enable this person, this would help unlock something else, right? And maybe this is someone I want to put in my corner for XYZ, right? And therefore, it's not only impact driven, but it's kind of like, actually long term it's impact driven, but short term maybe not so much. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. There is the political aspect of it too. Yeah.
That doesn't go away though if you're a consultant, right? I mean, at the end of the day,
still relevant. Yeah,
it's easier because it's easier for me because I got no stake in it, right? They're asking my opinion, and you know, if I see that it's a political implication, sure, but it's not my politic, right? It's, you know, we have a client today that got a CDP. I have no idea why they got it. They got it because it was a flash in the pan and it was a shiny new object. They still don't have it spun up after 3 years.
Right. And you know what? I think we need to address why we do this as email marketers. Skip, at the very beginning, you said, you know, we're not the only ones that are guilty of jumping onto the latest tech or anything like that. But if we actually have a look at how email marketing in the industry itself, you know, we tend to be underappreciated, under-budgeted, under-resourced, and all the rest of it. So we tend to be looking for things that will give us the quick wins, right? And often we just jump straight to tech. We just go, okay, well, there's some new tech out. That'll make my life easier. That'll make my life better, and I'm going to get better results for it. And all I have to do is plug and play type thing. So it's, you know, we need to look at the desire, because same as Ryan, I'll go into Delve, and then you actually find out, oh, it's because you've got this challenge, and you're thinking that tech will actually help you. Whereas actually we can do it strategically and save you a lot in budget, and you can actually get the results and give kudos to yourself rather than the tech. So yes, so it is a case of understanding the industry as a whole, and you know, we are very tech led. That's the bottom line.
I think on the back of that as well. Sorry, you guys. I was just going to say on the back of that as well, what you've said, Kath. I think because email is such a long-standing marketing tool against social media and everything, which is a little bit more recent, I kind of feel like I'm battling to get some more juicy things out there. So, you know, everyone knows what a click-through rate is and an open rate, and so what more can we add? And a lot of the time you will go to new tech and new advances, and just to look like you're making a difference and to look like the technology is moving on, because it is such a long-standing marketing tool. So I think that's another thing as well. Sometimes, even if it isn't going to increase margins hugely, it's something new and exciting, especially from when you're dealing with clients and you're responding to tenders, and then you're asking for, you know, people who've got AI and all of the brand new technology that's been brought to the market. It is kind of keeping up with that as well, which comes into play, I think, when adopting new tech.
Mm-hmm.
Keisha, you wanted to add something there, I think.
Yeah, I just want to say, I've had the opposite, because you all asked Faithful about, you know, the kind of leadership wanting to implement new things. I've had the opposite experience on brand side, where it's like they've been slow to adopt, especially when there's budget implications. So I think it still varies, you know, by every organization, really. But yeah, I definitely think there's so much involved, though, so much more, like Ryan said, involved on the brand side, on the client side, when it comes to trying to adopt new tech, whether you're early or not.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can probably dive into in a little bit more detail later. It's you've got the new tech, and as Ryan was talking about with the CDP, now what? You know, and for those of us who in our past lives sold the tech, right? We didn't get really any money out of it until the client started using it. So when clients were slow to adopt, that could cause real problems. Now we've had a question from Zoe, and we'll get to that one in a second, but we've kind of touched on a couple of themes in that last answer, and I want to dive into alignment between strategy and tech, and how do you go about, because we've talked a lot about, okay, you want to adopt this new tech, great, here are the pain points, or what pain point are you trying to solve? But there's let's try to spin it around the other way. If I'm developing my marketing strategy, how do I identify, oh, actually, maybe I do need some new tech. I can't do this, or I can't do that. Or how do you line those two things together? Like, which is the cart and which is the horse?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I speak and write about this all the time because at our consultancy, as with at Ryan's, because I work quite closely with him in some cases, very strategic led, right? So we start with the strategy because the bottom line is that we, as marketers for our brands, we know our audience, we know our products, we know our KPIs, we know our objectives, and all the rest of it. So, and we also, fully understand, hopefully, our consumers. So what we want to do is we want to start with the strategy. And then if we then do an audit, right, and we find out in the audit that there is that disconnect, that we can't actually do it. And if we can't achieve what we need to achieve with the workaround, then that's when we will start the journey of looking for some new tech. And that's why it's really key to sort of be aware of what is out there, what is happening, read up on case studies, all the rest of it, to do that. But yes, if you start with the tech and say, wow, this is cool, this is really great, oh, I read this fantastic case study, we should implement it, and then you're scurrying around to sort of go, how are we going to use it? I've got budget for it now, but how are we going to use this? Then that's when you probably end up not getting the results that you're actually seeking, because it's not actually delivering you anything of value. You're just using it for the sake of using it, and kudos to you, you end up getting budget for it, but you've now got this tool that's, not necessary. Not to say that it's not going to come in later on and give you something that you have, that provide you with a solution to a need that you have. But I think we just need to stay focused on strategy, of what we need to achieve to get the results that the brand is expecting, and also to provide the results that and the services and the products and solutions and everything that our consumers are wanting. And then if there's a challenge there because your existing tech stack doesn't meet it, that's when you to go elsewhere.
And from an operations perspective as well, when you find yourself doing something over and over again that is difficult because of the tech stack that you currently have, or if you are fielding requests that you have the same sort of use case has come up and the tech that you have is not sufficient, I think too that will be a time when you want to start looking and see what can solve those pain points for you there too.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The other piece of that occurred to me, Kath, when you were giving your answer, is back in the day when I worked on the tech side, the number of RFPs that we answered that asked for a list of functionality, right? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And then a year later or 2 years later, the client would give notice and they'd be like, yeah, your tech doesn't really do something. And we're like, it does. It most certainly does. You asked us if it did it during the RFP. We demoed it, during the sales process. But people forget. So I think the other component to this is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you've got a piece of tech that you are struggling to use, or Keisha, to your point, you keep getting this request through, and fulfilling that request is very difficult. Go to the tech provider and be like, hey, is there an easier way to do this? Am I not doing this right? As opposed to, it's sometimes I think it's easier to say, well, let's put out an RFP,
Yeah, no, seriously, I have talked so many of my clients out of doing an RFP and changing systems simply because of that reason. They come and they sort of go, oh, we've been reading about this system and it's really, really cool, and it's like it's the biggest, and it means to them it sort of means that we've moved up to a next level and everything. And I say, okay, so what is it? What in your strategy is it that you can't achieve with your existing one? And then they look, and I go, you can achieve everything. You just haven't started implementing it. There are so many brands out there who have not exhausted their existing tech stack, and they are looking just because I think there's a little little bit of like, oh, well, we use X. It's kind of a little bit like that. It's like it's a popularity competition, or I don't know what it is.
Without naming names, do you ever get the sense, and I'll throw this question to everybody, do you ever get the sense that changing the tech stack is also, trying to phrase this politely, a cop-out? Let's say a cop-out for, our results aren't where we want them to be. Kind of to Lindsay's point of, I want people in the business to see that the email program is moving on. So the way I'm going to do that is not to do the hard work and get better results, but to actually buy a new piece of technology. And then, oh, by the way, since we bought that new piece of technology and it's going to take a while to spin up, I don't have to worry about, my results. I can use that as an excuse for why my results aren't very good.
Oh, yeah. See it all the time on the enterprise side. And it's akin to the M&A world, right? If you have a company that's in decline and they acquire a company, one of the things they'll tell the board, or if they're public, they'll tell their shareholders is, well, we just acquired this company. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get the revenue aligned and get the teams aligned and all that stuff. So give us a break, in essence, right? Same thing on the enterprise tech side. They'll buy something and then that'll be the excuse for the next 3 years, and throw in, an agency, not mine because we're awesome, but throw in an agency and then fire them. And that's the reason for the delay on getting this tech stack spun up and whatever. Sometimes it does become a crutch that people want to hold on to because it's a way to get to be more realistic, where in the beginning they were unrealistic in their implementation timeline.
And I should say that other agencies are available, and other agencies are also awesome.
Yes. Like cats. Like cats
like
is
cats.
Awesome too.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's get to Zoe's question. So Zoe's about to embark on a project to look at a client's legacy tech stack, and it includes these two brands, but taking it up a slightly higher level. Where do you start? I've got some tech, right? It would be awesome to be greenfield, right? I would love to walk into a business, be greenfield, and be like, we can start from scratch. But people usually have some amount of stuff. Where do you start?
I would start by making a list of what it's doing for you well and what it's not doing for you. And then to Kath and Skip's point, when the things that you feel it's not doing well for you, dig a little deeper into those tools to see if there are features that are available that you haven't implemented. And then, see if whatever needs you still have that aren't met, if they're, valuable enough or weighted enough to look elsewhere to either add tools or swap out tools.
One of the things I think is effective, and Keisha, to your point, is to take that inventory of what works and what doesn't, and be really honest with multiple stakeholders across the business, right? When we run RFPs, we talk to anybody that touches email, and we ask them, what do you like? What do you don't like? And to Cass' earlier point, sometimes we talk people out of RFPs because it's clear through the discovery process that they're just not using the thing the right way, right? But to answer the question is to take an inventory and to really look critically on what's working, what's not, and is that an inherent problem with the platform, or is it a problem with the team? Is it a problem with the company, or is it a problem with the data? And then try and prioritize your replacement strategy or your RFP or whatever. And those questions, that discovery actually will fold into an RFP questionnaire to a vendor.
To add to that, I mean, they're both great. And to add to that, I would throw in an audit, preferably an audit by a third party, right? Because they're not coming into the audit with the limitations that you are. you already know that the tech stack, or you think that the tech stack can't do this, and you think that it can't do this. And so you might end up finding by the third party audit, person who's going to come in and do the audit, they might actually say, well, you've missed all these opportunities. Why haven't you done these opportunities, right? And then they'll say, oh, we didn't think of it, or we tried, but we couldn't get a buy-in, or the tech stack won't allow us, and then that gives you the chance to sort of add to that list accordingly, because it's you only know what you know, right? And it's being able to be informed about the things that you don't know, that you're not aware of, that can also then enhance and then help you to put more together, to put together a thorough RFP of what you're actually going to be doing.
So
I just wanted to
I know this, I'm asking you how long is a piece of string, but how long is a piece of string? If I'm about to embark on an RFP, how long should I be planning? How long does that take?
Depends on the size of the business, really. In my experience, some RFPs are quick. The problem that I've always come across is that the decision's always made too late in the day. And so RFPs tend to be very, very rushed. And they really should not be rushed. Because when you think about not just the term of the contract, but also the expense of migrating, everything, it's not easy. It's very expensive. It's very time consuming. And you need to be 100% sure that you need to do it. That's why we've been talking about all of these things. So I think, if you are thinking of doing it, give yourself plenty of time. Even if you haven't got buy-in, start doing all of this preparation work so that when you finally do get buy-in, because again, they may not give you the buy-in until things are getting very, very tight. And then you're going, oh, we want to, cut off the other ones. So we've got to do this. And they haven't taken into account the actual how long the migration will take, how long it will actually get you set to get you set up and running and everything, particularly when we're talking about upgrading to an enterprise system. It always takes a lot longer than everyone indicates to you. So, there's so many things to be taken into account, whereas other ones with smaller brands, we've done them incredibly quickly. But it just depends, and how many decision makers are in the process. Oh my goodness, I did one, and it turned out it was for a very big public transport company in England. And we started off with the email team, and then the CRM team wanted to get involved, and then the data team wanted to get involved. And then we ended up having every team, even if they had nothing to do with email, was involved. And so it ended up being just that our meetings ran for over a year. It ended up being taken away from email. It wasn't even email's decision in the end.
Goodness.
The politics.
Here's the email tool that you will use.
Exactly. Politics can be totally crazy.
And time frame wise, the more tools you have in your tech stack, the more data that you've got flowing through all those tools. And to Kat's point, the more stakeholders that are involved, the longer the process is going to be.
Mm-hmm. We tell clients the ideal timeline is for RFP and migration is at least 1.5 years before contract expiration. Yeah. And people are amazed. We've done 3 in the last year that are under a year. And it is rushing around like crazy, and people don't realize that you need the runway to run the RFP, the contract negotiations, the legal, the security, all that stuff, and then you got to do the migration. So it's an 18-month, to both Keisha and Kat's point, it's a while.
Yeah.
And don't forget that while you're running the RFP and all that other stuff you just mentioned, you've also got to run your business as usual.
Yeah, you got to do BAU.
Yeah, nobody's going to let you hire 5 people to run an RFP. Yeah. So you've just added on to everybody's day job.
Yeah. I just myself and my team where I work in my day job, we just did one in about 9 months. But the thing there was we were able to cut back on BAU work. And then we also, I can't say we hired because there was probably more people that left than actually came on. But because I think because we were able to pull back on the BAU work, we were able to get it done in under a year. But also, I would have wanted to dot some more I's and cross some more T's more than the time frame allowed me to do. But I definitely agree to give it that time frame of a year or more, because you don't want to, especially if you're looking to make that move to improve, you don't want to take everything from your old tool and just plop it into your new tool, because it's likely that you're going to have some of the same issues, because it's likely, as much as we don't want to admit it, a good amount of the issues that we have are from, the way that we're using our tools, the way that we've set them up, the way that we implement them, and our processes and systems. And so if you take some time to kind of walk those back and come up with a plan of not just migrating, but also improvement, not to go too far, because I probably went too far. That's probably why I had to pull it back as much as I did, but at least some sort of improvement moving to that new tool. So you definitely want to, bake in some buffer time for things like that as well.
Yeah. And the problem is once you tell them that, they sort of go, oh, they get very disappointed, because they're looking for those immediate uplifts, right? They go, oh, we just want to move over and we'll get, we're going to get better results and everything. And that's where, it's kind of, okay, well, let's go and have a look. Let's try out some nice plug and play. There's some amazing tech that will just literally connect with your own systems, your existing systems, and make them so much more robust, more flexible, more, way, way better, and enable you to do those things. So you can either do that in the interim, or if they work really well, you don't have to, you can save yourself a ton of money and actually just stay with that existing setup and just keep on. And this brings us to the best of breeds kind of solution as well.
Well, it does, and I want to jump into that next. I think the one takeaway from this part of the conversation, though, for me is, for a lot of marketing tech, you're only signing a 1 or 2 year contract, and if it's going to take you 18 months to replace it, you haven't even had time to figure, fully bed it down in your own operation before you have to. You should already be, if you were going to do it right and you wanted to replace it, you should start that process. So for me, it's a definitely make sure, going back to what we were talking about earlier, make sure that you have to make that change, because it is such a time suck. Now,
I think, sorry, Skip, just on that,
ahead,
what
Lindsay.
you just mentioned, it's also important to keep in mind that you're paying for your old technology as well while you're implementing this new technology. And I think that's something that we didn't kind of fully understand how long it was going to take. And we were paying for 2 pieces of software at the same time. So I think that's always something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. You can't shut off the old just because you've got the new. Now, Faithful, I want to throw this question to you first. What are your thoughts? What's your preference? Best of breed technology or all-in-one solutions?
So I would first of all start with it depends, which is it depends on your needs, and I think in a different organization, best of breed could be what is best for that organization, and a different one it could be best of suite. It also depends on what what stage the organization is, what setup they have, that would determine if you can enable either of this solution. I have used actually in HelloFresh. We're in best of breed, and then we moved to all in one, right? And for basically different strategic reasons, right? But you also have to know which each sides their pros and cons, right? So you can say, okay, all in one, you basically have everything in one. Everyone basically knows one platform, uses one platform, and essentially you can have more. If you're looking at multi-channel communications being orchestrated from one place, you have that, right? But that means that there may be some shortcomings with if you're doing, let's say, mobile communications. Let's say there's some shortcomings on one particular aspect. These kind of things you have to know and accept, right? Yeah.
Sure, you're balancing the convenience of one account team, one bill, one contract to negotiate against the slight inconvenience of, well, this feature probably isn't going to work quite as well.
Yeah.
Or isn't going to fit my needs quite as well.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts to add to what Faithful said?
I think. Oh, Kathy, you gonna go? You can go.
No, I was just going to say that just from past experience and observations, it is the larger organizations tend to go with the all-in-one because there is so much happening. It's easier to keep it all together. Whereas the smaller, more nimble organizations tend to go with the best of breed because that is more nimble as well. So, and they can always be updating and changing, but then you're only talking about, a small amount of people using it. And it's a lot easier to keep them updated, to keep track of who's using what, put all the reports together, everything like this. So as it's the small, best of breed, absolutely. The large organized and enterprise, but it's the mid ones. And I find it's the mid ones that so want to go and get the enterprise solutions, but it's not always, it still is overkill for them. And it's not necessarily the best solution for them every time. But again, it all depends on, the brand and everything. I have worked with lots of organizations on both ends of the thing. I love working with the best of breeds because it does mean that we can choose the best plug-in system that suits that particular brand, rather than going with the solution that's being provided as part of your overall, all-in-one solution, which might suit you as well. But that's, it just depends on a brand-by-brand case. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
My point was going to be, I've seen a change in the industry over probably the last 10 years, right? And it really is, to a lot of your points, a very organizational decision, right? Some organizations want the all-in-one, some want best of breed, point solution, whatever it is. But I've seen a shift over the last 10 years. So you started with best of breed, everybody had their platform, everybody had their stack. And then you had companies like Adobe and others that came out with an all-in-one, but it wasn't baked. But companies chased after that dream because they did want the all-in-one. They wanted the combined omni-channel strategy at scale in a frictionless environment, blah, 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 blah. And that dream got dashed because the companies really, all they did was acquire companies and join the billing system, but not the technology.
Yeah.
So then you had people go back the other way and say, okay, now I want point solution because the all-in-one suck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I've seen over the last 3 years is the rise and increase in interest and moving toward an all-in-one platform, because a lot of companies sat back and said, yeah, we screwed up, we didn't do it the right way, and they took some time to really look at the integration points, the data sharing, the holistic picture of the company in the technology. And so now you have quite a few companies that are all-in-ones that have best in class across the board with email and social, mobile, data, the whole 9 yards. And so you're seeing companies flock to them because they are the promise of what companies wanted 6 years ago, right? So while it is an organizational kind of a decision, it still is dependent upon, is the all-in-one component technologies better or worse, advantage or disadvantages to what am I going to get in a point solution?
Cool. I think
I got a cool out of him.
You
going back
left
to what
him.
you were saying.
Yeah, I left him speechless, really, which is a thing.
Am I back?
You're back.
You're
Yeah.
back,
Am I back?
but your mouth is
I'm back.
moving and
Um,
it's not joined.
for some reason, my computer is not charging it's plugged in, but it's gone down to 3% power. So I may fall off here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But yes, what I was saying, Ryan, is yes, cool. I loved it when everybody had to have a cloud, and it was
Yes.
a Franken cloud, basically, right?
Yes.
We've built the marketing Franken cloud, bought a whole bunch of stuff, bolted it together, hope it works. Okay, so we've got 9 minutes left. Let's deal with the elephant in the room. AI.
Oh.
AI. So, thing or not a thing? And if it's a thing, how's it going to be a thing? Or how's it going to change your life?
It's not
Pitfalls,
a thing
do you want
yet.
to start or do you want to go last?
Oh,
Well, okay. I'll sorry.
Go ahead, Kath. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a thing. We're still researching it. We're still finding out, again, those use cases and everything. And if anyone is doing what they should be doing, which is being aware of it, trying it out, practicing, testing, all the rest of it, you need to do that. Even if you don't have any current use cases, you need to understand, because it's definitely going to be a thing. The current use cases are huge for something like, generative AI and ChatGPT and all the other, equivalent tools out there. They are amazing, and they could literally revolutionize your email marketing department if you were to use them wisely. But again, I'm going to put that little sort of caveat there, saying only use them to solve a challenge, or if you've got an actual need. Don't create needs for them to be used. But that doesn't stop you from actually going through and understanding how they work. The bottom line is that if you aren't doing this yet, you can be sure that your competitor will be. And so when they're ready and when they do have a challenge, then they will have already implemented it and all the rest of it. And that could make a huge difference. And we're not just talking about copywriting. We're talking about analytics and reporting. We're talking about optimization and A/B split testing. We're talking about definitely even things like writing code and generating reports and everything. So it can help you to streamline your businesses. We're not there yet, because a lot of this will need integration. There are ways that you can do it manually as well. And that's a really good way of just getting it in, doing a little bit of, creating some business cases as to how and why you should be using it, and see if it actually does. Always test it out and see if it does give you the results. So yeah, if you've got your head in the sand at the moment about things like that generative AI, I would be asking you to pull your head out of the sand and start sort of saying, listen, this is going to be very much involved in the future of email marketing. So you're better to be aware of it and be educated now.
Do you think that it's one thing that always sticks in my mind is regulations, because it's so early in uptake, is that if we start generating this content and using it in our email campaigns, and then in a year, 2 years time, it starts to be regulated and the content is owned by certain people, and we have to then start backtracking and stop using certain content that was generated off the back of people's articles that have no longer given consent to be used. I think that's always, it's a bit of apprehension as to what is to come, because it's so new.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you need to put yourself in the case. So am I an author? Yes, I'm an author. Do I want people just taking, paragraphs out of my book and everything and just repurposing them? Absolutely not. Without attribution, absolutely not. So I think of it that, and if I was an artist, I would be exactly the same, thinking, no, I've worked really hard to generate this content or this art or whatever the story is. So it's us as human beings treating everyone else as human beings, but still at the same time understanding there is a fine line between doing that, which is plagiarism as such, and actually using it for intelligent use, such as generating reports, delving into your analysis. It's okay. And just a little word of warning on that too. If you are using something like an open AI source, such as ChatGPT, don't ever put anything as proprietary into it, because it's going to share it with everyone else, including your competitors. So it's up to us. This is what I'm saying. Be educated about the pros, the cons, the use cases, how to use it, everything like this, the downfalls, the scary bits, everything. We as marketers need to understand all of this, so that when our bosses do come and say, we want to, start doing this to create imagery, then you've actually got well, listen, there's actually a court case going on at the moment, and there's this happening, and there's this and everything like that. Let's just sit down, and let's just wait, because, it really verges on plagiarism, and it has yet to be debated and decided whether that is the case. Doesn't stop you from being aware and educated. The more educated you are, the better, prepared you will be.
How much fake AI is out there? And when I say fake AI, I'm talking about, you go to the website and it says, this product is AI driven, blah, blah, blah. When that's so not true.
Gotcha.
There's tons. It's become a marketing cornerstone instead of reality. Most of it is machine learning. Most of it is algorithms. Little of it is true AI. And that's the problem with the buzzword, is that nobody knows the questions to ask to get to the truth of, is it AI or is it something else? And we're taking it at face value when it's really not something to take at face value. It's something to really look at. How does that company define AI? And are they smarter than everybody else, or are they dumbing me down?
I think that was a conversation that I've had recently, actually, about ChatGPT and can we start using that to generate content. And I'd mentioned about a company that I'd spoken to recently in a seminar and how they offer that service. And the person I was speaking to said, "Well, what do you mean? You just type it in and ask it a question, and we can do it ourselves." And I don't think it's fully appreciated that, you need Python, you need to know what queries to ask to generate the correct result. So it's not just as simple as the ChatGPT that everyone's familiar with.
My biggest issue with ChatGPT is, as I've said on this show a number of times, I've been in email marketing since AOL was relevant, and we've never been able to get a finance to pay for copywriting, or it's been very difficult. And now I can already hear the finance department. Oh, just put it in ChatGPT; it'll write the email for you.
Yeah.
So we are coming up to half past the hour. Faithful, you've been awful quiet on the AI chat. Do you have any AI thoughts to wrap us up?
So I think that it can be very helpful and also impactful. I also think it depends on what you use. So I'm not talking about ChatGPT itself, but there are other tools that kind of leverage, let's say, OpenAI technology. So the technology itself, and based off your company's data, can function or function as the technology would, which is create content or generate something based off content that you already have, right? So what this means is that for data privacy or plagiarism issues, it's kind of like you can sort of, would I say, escape that, right? Because this is actually your data that is using to create this content, right? And this, for me, it's kind of finding the balance here, right? So yes, there are issues, but are there actually ways that you can, would I say, avoid these issues, but still leverage the technology? And there are tools today that actually provide you that benefit. I think it definitely can get you there faster than what BAU was before, right? Yeah.
That is a great place for us to wrap up on. Thank you all. So thank you to all of our speakers today. It's been a brilliant panel. Our time has run out way too fast, as it always does. Also, thank you to our wonderful sponsors, RPE Origin and Bloomreach. And last but not least, thank you to you. We know that your time is limited, and we're really appreciative that you spent some time with us this afternoon. As you can see, we'll be back on August 15th, talking about finding low-hanging fruit to increase email conversions. But until then, be safe and make good choices.